Look at another part of America where the danger was not coming from a person but from the flames moving through the vegetation. Well, a vegetation fire broke out in Sorrento Valley, that is the area of San Diego. In the meantime, what began as a relatively small fire, it expanded rapidly, and later updates put the fire at roughly about 130 acres, with shifting winds pushing it farther and farther towards areas of thicker vegetation. Can you think about what that means for the people who are living nearby? You don't necessarily see the flames immediately. You see the smoke first, you smell it, then the roads begin closing, then the evacuation warning appears on your phone. And suddenly, residents are no longer asking, how bad is the fire? They're asking, do I need to leave or not? Officials issued evacuation warning for several zones and an evacuation order for another area, while temporary evacuation locations they were established for the people who needed to leave. Firefighters also used aircrafts as part of the response as the blaze expanded. The most important part of the wildfire story, it is often not the number of acres burnt, it is the speed. Because weather, it can change, wind direction can change, and a fire that appears manageable to you, it can suddenly move into a completely different area. And that's exactly why authorities issue evacuation warning before a fire reaches the home. The goal is to create time to pack, time to move, time to protect the lives. And for the communities already dealing with the heat, dry vegetation and changing weather condition, these fires are becoming a reminder that an emergency can grow much faster than people expect. So tonight, two American stories have already given us two different forms of uncertainty. One was a deadly security emergency, the other one, it was an environmental emergency. And now we shift from public safety to something much more familiar for Indian families, the US visa interview. Because for thousands of Indian families, the next American headline isn't about a smoke or police. It is about what happens at the embassy interview window. Well, for parents who are applying for a US visa for their children, there is a very important message coming from the US embassy in India. The child still has to be present. Well, the embassy has clarified that minors, including very young children, they are required to appear in person for their visa interview under the process described in its public communication. In other words, parents cannot simply walk into the interview alone and expect to complete the child's application on the child's behalf. And yes, that can include very young children. For parents, this changes the whole planning. You're not simply scheduling an appointment for yourself. You need to think about the child's presence as well, the child's documentation, the child's photographs, and the child's travel details. For a newborn or toddler, that can sound inconvenient, right? But from a counselor perspective, if we see, well, the stated reason, it is straightforward. The officer needs to see the applicant before deciding the visa case further. And this is where parents need to be very careful about another issue: consistency. Why are you traveling? Who is paying? Where will you stay? Do you have any relative in America? And how long will the child remain in the US? When will the family return? Well, these are the questions that may sound very basic to you right now, but the answer that needs to match the information already submitted. And yes, the photograph is also very important. The US visa photographs may have specific requirement, that is relating to the size, background, image quality, and applicant's appearance. So don't leave the photo until the last minute. Don't assume a school photograph will automatically work. And don't assume that because the child is very young, the normal process that does not exist to that child. The larger lesson is simple. Age does not mean you can ignore the process. For parents who are planning to travel to America, a little preparation before the interview, that can prevent a lot of confusion at the embassy. And yes, while families are worrying about getting through the embassy door, Washington and Tehran are dealing with something far more dangerous: the possibility of military escalation.